So to be able to follow this tutorial, I'm expecting you to be a beginner, but know at least the basics of Blender. So you have to know how to navigate the environment, what a modifier is, what a loop cut is, things like that. So we can actually use the default cube to model up our Popsicle. So let me select that. And I want to add a subdivision surface modifier. The quickest way to do that is to press Ctrl and 2 in this case. And you can see if you go in the modifier tab, so this range here, that Blender added a subdivision surface modifier for us with 2 levels. I could have pressed like Ctrl 3, and remember 3 from the number on the top of your keyboard, not the numpad in this case. I was saying if I would have pressed Ctrl 3, it would have added a subdivision surface modifier with 3 levels. I can change that doing this, but I think subdivision with 2 levels will be more than enough for what we have to do. And if we enter edit mode with tab, you can see that my cube is still actually a cube because the modifier is not applied yet. So 1 from your numpad this time to enter frontal view, and Ctrl R to add a loop cut. And I'm going to add it here so we can start to give our Popsicle its shape. Then I'm going to press Alt C to enter X-ray mode. You can enter it by here. And I'm going in vertex mode, so you can select it either by clicking here or by pressing 1 on your normal numbers. I'm going to select these top 2 vertices and press G to grab, Z to grab on the Z-axis, and bring this around here, I think. I'm also going to add another loop cut. I think probably here could be a good choice. Then I'm going to press Alt Z to ask from the X-ray mode. I'm going to press tab to go into object mode, and obviously our Popsicle is now too chunky, so I really want to see it from above. So on my numpad I'm going to press 7, and I'm actually going to scale it a bit on the y-axis. So press S, Y, and we're going to make it a bit smaller. And now it is starting to really have a Popsicle shape. So if I press 1, I'm going to frontal mode, and we can actually change the shape so that it reminds more of a real Popsicle. So what I want to do is again press tab to enter edit mode, press 3 to enter face mode, select the bottom face, and actually inset it with I think this will be okay. And I'm actually going to extrude and then grab NZ, so GZ, to bring this a bit higher, to give it a bit of this shape that is more natural in my opinion. Then still in edit mode, 1 on the numpad to enter frontal view, and I'm actually going to add another loop cut. So again Ctrl R right here to give it a bit more of a realistic shape. Not that it has to be realistic, but it's so straight right now on the sides that it's a bit strange. So I'm going to press Alt and left click while in edge mode, because in this way Blender is going to select this edge loop, so all the edges that are connected. And with proportional editing, which you can turn on either by clicking here or by pressing O, and again O to deactivate it, I'm going to modify this. You can see that with proportional editing activated, not only the part that I have selected is changing, but also the parts that are near it. So I think I want to make maybe a bit less. You can scale it with the mouse wheel, so you can make it bigger or smaller. I think I'm going to make this bottom part a bit bigger, and I'm also going to scale this part here. So Alt, left click, S to scale. Should be a bit less. I think it could be okay like this. And then I'm going to scale this as well. So again, Alt S, S to scale. Oh, Alt left click, sorry, and then S to scale. Maybe put a bit more proportional editing here. And really you can give it the shape that you prefer. You can make it like the upper part very thin. Maybe this is a bit too extreme. You can make maybe the middle part very fat. It depends on your preferences, I guess. But I think that I'm pretty satisfied with this. So what we want to do now, I'm in object mode obviously, is to right click and press Shade Auto Smooth. And now we have a kind of a nice shape, but it's still a bit, not perfect. It's a bit spiky, kind of. To solve this, we can simply add another level to our subdivision surface modifier. So we can just go like this, and you see that now it's much, much better. Be aware, if you have a previous version of Blender and you right-click, you may not find the auto smooth, like right here. You may only find the shade smooth. In that case, press shade smooth, then go on this tab here, and under normals, you will find the auto smooth command control. You can press 1 to see your shape on the frontal view and see if you're satisfied. I think I'm not completely satisfied, so I'm going to make some minor changes. Okay, I like this a bit more, definitely. Again, you can give it the shape you want. You can add more loop cut. You can move them maybe a bit higher, a bit lower, depending on the shape that you want to give. And now that we're satisfied with our popsicle shape, we can actually model the stick for our popsicle. Okay, so now I'm going to grab GX to move this away so we can model the stick. So Shift A, Mesh. I'm going to add a plane, RX to rotate on the X axis, then type 90 with your numbers, the numbers on the top of your keyboard, enter to confirm, and then I'm going to scale, so SX, because I wanted to make thinner, like, a popsicle stick. I think this could be okay. Enter edit mode. I'm going to select with face mode, so either press 3 or use this button here, this face here, and then with E, I'm going to extrude. I think that like this, it should be fine. We can always change that. And I'm also going to apply a modifier to the stick. So Control 2, and now we have this very strange shape. And that's because we have to add some support loops, they are called. So we have to tell Blender which parts of the mesh we want to be not so rounded. So Control R to add the loop cut, and I'm going to add it, I think, here. Control R, I'm going to add another one, like here. And if you're satisfied with this shape, it can be okay. You can make it more rounded if you do something like this. So Control R, and you add a loop cut here, and then another loop cut here. And now it's more square, but I think I preferred it, the other way. So I think this is more than fine. So right click, shade auto smooth, and I think this is pretty fine. So 1 to go to frontal view, and I'm going to, with G, I'm going to grab those here. Now it's not perfectly centered on the axis, so what I can do is press N, and on location, I can just type 0, and so now it's perfectly centered on the x-axis, just like the popsicle. And I think that this is okay. The stick is definitely too small for the popsicle, so I'm going to scale it a bit with S. Not on the Z-axis, I did it wrong, just S to scale. And I'm actually going to press S, Shift Z, so that it scales on every axis but the Z one. So it's going to be a bit thinner. I think this could be okay. Again, you can use, oh wow, it's not centered actually, so I can actually just do this, grab and Y, so G Y. Yeah, a bit better. It doesn't have to be perfect, but okay. So now I'm going to G and Z, so I will move the popsicle and the stick a bit higher, and then Shift A, Mesh, Plane to add sort of base for our final scene, and then with the plane selected, Tab to enter edit mode, and with 2 I'm going to enter edge mode and press left click to select this edge, Shift left click to also select this edge here. Then press E to extrude, Z to constrain on the Z axis, and I'm going to put this up a bit. I think this is fine. And then I'm going to select this edge, Shift left click to select this one as well. And then Control B to add a bevel. You can increase the number of bevels with your mouse wheel, so I'm going to add a bit more. It's going to make it more smooth. If you go nearer or farther away, you can increase the distance. I think that something like this is more than fine. So, and then enter object mode with tab, right click, shade smooth, and I think that this is fine. Now we want to give materials to our stuff. So, fun fact, my computer decided that it would have been really fun to shut down with no apparent reason, so I didn't save. You should have pointed that out. I never saved. It was actually a lesson to teach you that it's very important to save very often, because I lost all the work. I didn't even save the project in its primordial form, so I had to remodel everything from scratch. Not that it was, a big deal, it was a very, very simple project, but imagine this was a big one. So, definitely saved a lot of time. That being said, I was saying, I think, let's go to the... So if you see some differences, it could be because I had to remodel everything. So let's go to the shading tab. And I think I'm going to give the material to our plane first. So let's select a new material and choose a color that we like. You think I'm going to go with the kind of blue-purple color. Then I'm going to select the stick because it's going to be pretty easy. Again, new material, select a color around the, I would say, more brown than yellow, be a bit orangey. So I guess something like this, it can be fine, something that remembers, wood. And we can actually enhance the roughness a bit, not that it's too important. And now the main part of which I want to talk about, a material for our popsicle. I want to give it a striped look, so what I'm going to do is press Shift A while I'm here in this part here, Shift A, press search and search for gradient, and then select gradient texture. And I'm going to put it here. You can, put it in place with left click once you have generated it. And then I'm going to left click the color and put it in the base color of the principal BSDF. Now, we can see that there's a part that's kind of black and a part that's kind of light. That's what the gradient did. But it now needs a color to apply the gradient, basically. So what I want to do is press again Shift A and search for color ramp. And I should really don't use the cap lock. So color ramp, and you can just bring it here between the gradient texture and the principal BSDF node and just left click. It will automatically, you see, attach itself where it has to be. If that doesn't happen for you, just color to FAC and color to base color. Now, if we move this slider here, we can see that the popsicle is gradually turning completely black. And that's because basically what the color ramp does is that when I move this slider, everything that is near the black color becomes black. So if I have a very dark gray, it becomes black. And the more I slide it this way, the more even things that are kind of far away from the black tone becomes black. Even white at one point becomes black. The same happens if I move this slider here on the opposite side. Everything that's kind of white becomes completely white, and at one point, everything is white. So what we want to do is to give it a popsicle color. So I can click on this part here, and if I click here, I can choose the color. Now everything is with a very low saturation. Now everything has a very low value, so I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to use very bright colors for a popsicle, and I think I'm going to use blue, and I'm going to slide it a bit so it actually becomes a bit blue at least. And then if I click on this part here, and then here I can choose another color, maybe, I don't know, like a mint looking color. And now I have a problem because my colors are vertical, they're merging in a vertical way. But maybe there are popsicles like those, but all the popsicles that I've seen actually have horizontal stripes. But there's a way to fix that, so no worries. Now the first thing you have to do is to go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and search for Node Wrangler, and make sure that you have that active. If that's the case, you can close here, press on the popsicle, then press to make sure you have the gradient texture selected, so press on the gradient texture, and then press Ctrl T. This will add 2 new nodes that we can use to better control the gradient texture. And you can see here that we have 3 very useful parameters: location, rotation, and scale. The one in which we are interested right now is rotation, because we can use this to rotate the gradient. And specifically, we want it to rotate on the y-axis, so we can type in 90, and it will be rotated up 90 degrees. And now we have a very nice popsicle. You may want to add more colors, because 2 may be a bit boring, So to do that, you go to your color ramp node and click this plus icon here. This will add a color that is in between usually, but you can change that. Maybe I think red can be a good choice. Kind of interesting, I guess. And if we don't like the proportions, we can obviously slide these parts here. I think we can add another one and bring it here, and maybe go, on the orange tone so that it blends better with the green. Maybe even a bit of a yellow tone. So something here, maybe I can do this so it's a bit more green, and like this. Okay, so you can really play with this however you want. You can add a ton of different shades, and you can, make the popsicle in the way that you better like. Now, just one last thing that you may want to change is that you can see that the colors now blends in a very smooth way. So there's a very gradient transition. We have used the gradient texture after all. If you don't like that and you want a more stark transition, you can actually go in the color ramp and instead of linear, choose constant. You now see that we have a very precise contour of the colors that we chose, and we can regulate them in a very good way. But I actually prefer the smoothed mousse. I'm just going to hit Ctrl-Z a bunch of times, and here we are. One last thing I want to do to the popsicle is actually to make it a bit shiny, because it's made out of ice. So on the principal BSDF node, we're going to roughness, which controls the roughness of the object. Incredible, I know. And I'm going to slide it on the left so it becomes more shiny. Now, if you bring it to the 0, it's actually going to be reflective. You can see that it's reflecting the surrounding environment, and popsicles are shiny, but not that much. So I'm actually going to find, I think something like this could be definitely, maybe even a bit less shiny. I think that something like this is acceptable. Okay, so I just added some lights, but this is not a lighting tutorial, also because I'm not expert enough to do a tutorial on that. And I ended up with something like this, and if I press Z, I'm going to render mode. Now we are in Eevee, but I actually want to render this in cycle, so we can press on this icon here and change the render engine from Eevee to cycles. And now we have a better preview of what we're going to reach in our final result. So play with the lights, and once you're happy with your final result, you can press, if you want to be super fast, F12 to start to render. Now let's see if everything crashes. No, but you probably won't see what's going on, except that I'm going to put it when I'm going to edit the video, so you will see the final result as well. And I think it's not perfect, obviously. It was a very, very simple modeling tutorial, but I think it's kind of nice, and you can really start from this base and try and do a lot of different stuff. If you do that, please let me know. If you want to share with me what you did, it would be great. You can find my Instagram on the video description, in the video description. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If something was not clear, let me know. I'll try to answer all the questions that you have for me, if you have any. Well, guess that's this is all for now.